is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the new channel for me, my new main. The whole setup for the official Sax is on the other thing, is my old account. There's gonna be the new main for that, but here I am today reacting to this video.
Okay.
We're gonna three true Santa Claus horror stories and animated. So let's get into it, guys. Let's hop right into it.
A few years back, my family went to Universal for Christmas. It was around that time that they just opened up their new replica of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and my friend and I both wanted to go. Neither of us were loaded enough to stay at the resort inside the park, but we were able to get rooms in the same cheaper hotel just a few miles away. As tainted as my memory of that weekend is, I clearly recall that the day we spent roaming through the park together was a blast. Everything was festively decorated and covered in snow, a big deal for Florida boys. After a long day of walking through the park and visiting all the attractions, pigging out on various chocolatey culinary concoctions at the chocolate factory, and coercing our parents into buying a bunch of gifts, the sun was setting on our Christmas vacation. However, we still had one more night at the hotel. Our parents had planned this.
Damn. Too drunk
gotten a little too drunk
to drive you home?
to drive all the way home.
Okay.
While our parents were passed out in bed, my friend and I couldn't sleep. Our minds were buzzing with all the things we'd done that day, and we didn't want it to end just yet. We were dueling each other on a mobile game when he messaged me. "Yo, I saw a gym on the way up. You want to race on the treadmills?" My feet were still sore from all the walking, but it seemed like a good way to blow off some steam. Sure, but how do we get in?" "Don't worry about it. I'll use my room keys. Just meet me on my floor." That meant I'd have to sneak out and go downstairs, but that wouldn't be hard. My parents were out cold. The only trouble I
What is in that bag, boy? Bro got some guns, some crowbars in a hotel or wherever he's in. Whatever.
had was finding where they put the room keys so I could get back in unnoticed. It
Okay.
took several tense minutes of digging through my mother's purse in the dark, but I found the elevator. I only got a few steps in before I heard somebody walking
The
behind
animations, they're okay. I mean, I'm not gonna hate on the animations.
me. I stopped and turned around, and immediately got stranger danger vibes. There was a man
Look at him, bruh. What is he wearing, bruh?
standing in the hallway, half dressed as Santa Claus. And by that, I mean he was half naked. All he had on were the boots, the fake beard, and a stocking cap, along with the most strange pair of stained briefs I've ever seen. Other than that, he carried a flimsy red sack that didn't look very full at all. I immediately spun back around and started power walking to the elevator. I heard him shuffling behind me, trying to catch up.
No.
When I got to
Get the fuck out of here, bruh. Nah, man, he got me messed up.
the elevator, I spammed the down arrow. I knew that wouldn't make it go any faster, but my panicked brain was willing to try anything. By the time the doors finally opened, I could feel the creep right behind me, breathing.
You got me messed up, bruh. Oh, dude, look at this, bruh. Whispering on the back of my neck. Oh.
My neck. "Well, aren't you going in?" "You can go first." "No problem, my little angel." I stepped aside and let him through. As he boarded the elevator,
What is he wearing, bro? What the?
he sang, "All I want for Christmas is you." Then he retrieved something from his limp
Bruh,
sack and
move.
stretched his arm through the doorway, holding out an unwrapped candy cane. There was a bunch of red lint from the sack stuck
Ain't
on
no one wants your candy cane, bro. Get that out of here.
to
What is
it. But not wanting to aggravate him for any reason, I took it without any intention of eating it. Finally, he dropped his arm and cleared the doorway. We stared at each other for a few unbearable seconds, until at last the door slid closed and I was freed from his gaze. I didn't see him push any buttons, so I was worried he would open the doors and reappear at any second. To make sure I didn't run into him again, I took the stairs down to my friend's floor. But, of course, my woes were not done for the night. The first thing I saw when I opened the door into the
There's a
hallway
whole dude on
was
the
my friend
ground
having a
dead.
seizure. I dropped the candy cane and rushed to him, calling out for help. Help! Help!
It was the candy cane, bruh. That's why you don't take candy from strangers.
Somebody call the cops! Help! My friend was frothing at the mouth, his eyes pure white from rolling back into his head, thrashing violently despite all my attempts to calm him down. There was nothing I could do. It wasn't until he'd already gone limp and unresponsive that people finally emerged from their rooms to see what was going on. I'm no doctor, but I knew at that point he was already dead. Nobody ever talks about how people empty their bowels and bladder in their moment of death. I'm not a detective either, but I had a pretty good idea as to what had killed him. Clutched in his dying grip was the same kind of dusty, unwrapped candy.
And that's why you don't trust people that give you free candy. And that's why our parents been telling us this.
Cane that the
But yet it's
half-naked
not.
Santa had given me. In the following months, I was subpoenaed to testify against that worthless turd of a man. And during my appearances in the court, I got to learn far more than I wanted to. The hotel security cameras had ample footage of the man stalking multiple people in the hallways and trying to offer them his candy canes, which he laced with some kind of extremely potent poison. No matter how many times he raved about it, I'll never understand his delusional motive. Something about bringing people closer together for Christmas by sending them all to heaven. I don't even care anymore. But the civil suit against the hotel is still going on. I hope my friend's parents get a fortune from that hotel for their negligence. Letting a man like that roam around their hallways during the holiday.
Ho, 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 ho.
Oh, hell no, they trust. Okay. Okay, that first one, I'm just
In
gonna
my-
say. To be honest, I have nothing to say. Get into that.
Last year of high school, my parents pressured me into getting a job to save money before I moved to college. I knew they couldn't offer me much once I left, so I didn't really have much choice. But with school still hanging around my neck, I wouldn't get a job that required real work. Instead, I applied for a part-time position as an elf in the local mall, backing up the visiting Santa Claus. I figured it couldn't be any harder than smiling and helping kids up and down from Santa's lap, and ushering away the occasional temper tantrum, of course. I got the job without any trouble, and initially, my hopes were high. The man who'd been hired to play Santa Claus really did look like the St. Nicholas himself. He didn't need one of those cheesy fake beards.
Look at this dude. Look at this dude. Hell no. Leave. Leave.
His genuine facial hair was spot on. Plus, the fluffy suit of red and white looked like it had been tailor-made specifically for him. It was still early in the morning when I walked in on my first day. The mall wasn't even open yet, so I thought I should introduce myself before the day began. Good morning, sir. I'm the new helper elf. Oh, good. Fresh meat. Make a good impression and get me some coffee, dear boy. The way he spoke threw me off. He sounded like Santa, but he didn't say the things you'd expect Santa to say, or in the way Santa would. I glanced around idly to the other elves, meeting their intense stares. One of them looked at me with wide eyes and said, "Get the freaking coffee, dimwit!" I heeded the urgency in his voice and rushed off to the food court. I didn't even know where the break room was, so I had to pay for a cup out of pocket from a restaurant, which was still opening up. When I got back, the elf that spoke to me before was knelt below Santa's chair, polishing his boots. Certainly wasn't in her job description. Still, I didn't want to intervene, so I did my best to
Got this dude polishing Santa's boots. Like, what you doing? Bro, like, how much you get paid? $7 an hour for this?
ignore it as I handed Santa his coffee.
See this here, dear boy? This is what happens when you speak out of line. Elves need to respect Santa, and of course his beautiful reindeer. Got it?
Yes, sir.
You mean, yes, Santa.
Right, I'm sorry, Santa. At that point, I could understand why he was calling us dear boys and girls. He had a strange obsession with reindeer, so I assumed the pun was being said intentionally. I began having serious doubts about the job. However, as soon as the mall opened up and kids started lining up to meet us, things got easier. That's when Santa finally got into character, and for the duration of the business hours, he was the jolly man he was supposed to be. Thankfully, my shifts ended before Santa's, so I didn't have to deal with him during close. For the first couple weeks, every day was more or less the same. Every evening, I'd get home depressed, wondering how such a jerk could be Santa Claus. And every morning, I'd return to be slave to his beck and call. Over time, I found a certain urge of defiance building up inside of me every time I heard him order us around. Always, dear boy, do this, dear girl, do that, like we were his servants, as if we were dear to his heart in any way. One morning, I went in with a scowl on my face from all the pent-up frustration, and that Santa poser was right on top of me for it.
Hey, you! You're always leaving early and weaseling out of cleaning. Vacuum the stage, because somebody did a lousy job last night.
By the time I got back with the vacuum, he had another order for me.
You boy, go get me some fresh meat from the food court.
Okay, sir, just as soon as I finish cleaning.
Do it now! Do you want to learn what it's like to be one of my reindeer? They're not even open yet, old...
Dude, you ain't my boss, bruh. You can't be doing this. I ain't no one like that. This dude, I would've quit my job already. I'm not even gonna lie.
Man, give me a minute!
I clammed up, but I'd already let slip enough to piss him off. The other elves stared on in fear.
Dear boy, I'm gonna rip your stupid elf ears off and make them my earmuffs! Leave me alone or I'm calling the cops!
He lunged at me with sudden speed, but he was caught and held back by the other elves, thrashing and screaming.
Oh!
He eventually caved in and exited the mall. After that, the only thing left was explaining to the public why Santa had disappeared. We didn't mind. A whole mall full of kids bawling from disappointment was easy compared to dealing with that jerk. We improvised with the picture setup and carried out work for the rest of the day. Unfortunately, things took a sour turn when I got off. I was walking through the parking lot to get to my bus stop when I saw a Christmas stocking cap fluttering behind a dumpster. I could tell there was someone behind there. I crept up and looked over the edge, and saw the mall Santa eating the mangled corpse of a deer.
Stupid elves, my dear boys and girls now.
I ran away as fast as I could, traveling the extra few blocks down the road to wait
Man's just eating and digging.
anxiously for the next bus.
How you be
When I
hiding,
finally
bro?
got home, I stumbled in, shaking, and fell into my bed. For the next few days, I didn't leave the house. I quit that job at the mall and started applying elsewhere. I didn't sleep well. The image of raw venison between Santa's teeth flashed before me in the dark. By the time Christmas rolled around, I'd slipped back into my old lazy habits like a coping mechanism.
Hey, son, we're going to the store to get some dinner. You want anything? Pizza? Fried chicken?
Sure, Dad. How about venison?
That honestly had a weird ending, but to the next. Okay, now
Everybody knows that mall Santas aren't the sort of people you should readily trust around children, which must be why there's always a crowd of elf characters in that area to keep the costumed man in check. I, for one, am certainly glad that this is the case, but likely not for the reason you'd expect. I have a terribly clear memory of one occasion with one of these mall Santas. I was much younger at the time, young enough to still be interested in the idea of Santa Claus, but more than old enough to have my doubts about the truth of it. My whole family went out to the community mall for some last-minute Christmas shopping. The first thing that caught my attention was the staging area, right inside the entrance, where Santa Claus was granting wishes and taking pictures along with his team of elves. To my recollection, That was probably the most wholesome and charming Santa Claus charade the mall ever had. All the kids in line looked so excited to talk to the one and only St. Nicholas. I immediately started begging my parents to let me go see him. Mom, can we go see Santa Claus?
Maybe later, honey. The line is too long. We'd be there all day. We should go shopping while we have all our energy.
What kind of parent don't let their kids see Santa Claus? Man, let them believe. Let him believe. But still.
Okay. But if it's shorter later, can we go?
Sure, sweetie pie. You've been nice this year.
I guess my parents wanted to buy what they could before everything was gone. It didn't make sense to me at first, but the longer they made me wait, and the more times they asked me what I wanted for Christmas, the more it began to dawn on me that Santa Claus wasn't really the person who gave out the presents every year. Obviously, it was just the parents who bought things for their children. Otherwise, what would be the point of asking Santa Claus to get me something if Mom had just gotten me everything I wanted right in front of me? So, by the end of the shopping spree, I was in a pretty sour mood. I know that every kid has to realize this at some point, but having the magic stripped away so close to Christmas brought on a lot of conflicting emotions for the younger me. But it would only get worse from there. As we were about to leave the mall with our purchases in tow, we all noticed how much shorter the line for Santa had gotten.
Look at that, honey. You could almost walk right up to him.
At that point, I didn't even want to talk to him anymore. The glow was all gone. And now it seemed like every one of the few kids that were waiting in line were almost scared. Despite that, I just didn't have the energy to say no at the time. So we all shuffled into the queue so I could get to sit on Santa's lap. But as we got closer and closer, I started to see that the line wasn't the only thing that had changed in the few hours since I'd last seen the staging area. Santa Claus looked different. Before, he'd been this jolly old, warm and fuzzy-looking grandpa.
Yeah.
But now, he didn't even look like the same person anymore. And it wasn't just that his fake beard wasn't on right. It looked like he was wearing some kind of mask. The smiling rosy cheeks from before had turned pale and droopy. I was extremely nervous by the time I got to the front of the line, but I don't think the rest of my family was paying attention. Everybody's just tired, that's all.
Go on, honey. Go get your picture.
Timidly, I stepped up to Santa's lap. Without a word, he picked me up with a vice grip and shoved me down between his legs. And what do you want for Christmas, kid? I couldn't respond. I was frozen with fear I couldn't explain. Well, kid? Come on, spit it out. You're not the real Santa. Huh? What'd you say? Speak up, I'm old. I said, you're not the real Santa Claus. You're a fake. I'd seen this movie where a guy tears the fake beard off the mall Santa. I thought it would be a great way to expose this guy who was giving me the creeps. But when I reached up with a quickness and yanked the white ball of fluff with all my might, more came off than I expected. The entire face peeled off and crumpled up in my stunned grasp. The real face of the man beneath was caked in blood and bits of tissue, grinning at me maniacally with all wretched manner of craggly teeth and sharp features. After that initial moment of shock, he threw me off to the ground and started running for the door. I remember being unable to move, hearing a cacophony of shrieks and shouts and wailing. The man didn't get far. The security guards ran him down with an initiative I'd never seen from a mall cop before or since. In the coming days, we found out that the original Santa Claus actor was discovered in his van out in the mall parking lot, naked, with his face cut off. He went on break and never came back. We never learned that psycho's motive, but one thing's for sure. I will never forget that moment every time I hear the name Santa Claus come up.
Yeah, I would too, buddy. Well, there's that, guys. I'll give this video like an 8 out of 10. Pretty good. Anyways, this is be the first video posted on the channel, so there you go, guys. Hope y'all like, do subscribe, I don't know, do something. Hopefully this channel gets somewhere in my life. Anyways, love y'all. Stay safe.